Good morning, GM. Welcome to another episode of Fomo Hour. This is episode 190. Can you believe it? Closing in on 200 shows. Today is Thursday, August 29th, 2024. It is a cloudy, overcast morning here in Chicago today, folks. Feels fairly similar to the NFT market, which feels a little cloudy and overcast here. After this latest SEC Wells notice, broader markets feeling a little overcast today as well. After Nvidia earnings day did not go off and live up to the hype, but not an overcast day for those in the bet prediction market as they flip poly market. We're going to break it all down on today's show, folks. No Farouk. He is still off in Asia. No Mando today either, but we are holding down the house with Logan Hitchcock. And he was on with us yesterday. If you don't know Logan, he is the editor-in-chief over at Lucky Trader. He has been covering the NFT and Web3 space in depth for years. Logie, GM, how you doing?
Good morning, Tyler. Doing well. Hopefully audio better than yesterday. Maybe off to a better start. Okay, awesome. Yeah, doing well. Excited to chat, break things down. I'm feeling, cautiously optimistic about everything happening right now.
All right, Logie's feeling good. I'm feeling good too. Folks, no hat today. I actually showered. I don't shower that often before the show. I have an event at my son's school later this morning. So we'll probably keep the show a little tighter today. Probably a 45-minute episode. Get you in and out of here. What are we going to talk about? So on today's show, we're going to start with a quick market report. I'll do my best to fill in for Mando. We're going to talk what's happening with this bet prediction market and some prediction market bets that we like. We're going to go deeper into the Opensea Wells notice story. We're going to talk punks versus autoglyphs. And then is Logan buying a DeGods? We got some breaking news before the show. Logie is bull posting. So we're going to dive into that a bit. We've got Telegram's ton goes down again. The market doesn't care at all. Abstract's new wallet. Sonium's L2 launch is out, plus a lot more. So we've got a lot to get into on today's show. With that, why don't we just dive right into this here? Let me get my screen share up and going, and we will dive into the market report here. But for starters here, crypto majors up, 1 to 2% on the day. We've got Bitcoin 60,350, up 2% at 2560. Solana actually in red on the day. Somewhat interestingly, if you take a look at the ETFs, so the Bitcoin ETFs saw another day of outflows, another 105 million out the door, but Ethereum, 6 million in inflows. First first green day for Ethereum in a couple weeks. So you certainly love to see that, likely driving some of that positive price action that we saw on the board. I think that the big story in macro and markets here in the last day was Nvidia. People were having Nvidia earnings watch parties apparently across the United States, across the globe. Not normal market here. We got the details. I thought it was a hit. I thought it was a win. So we've got some of the Walter Bloomberg tweets here. So let's see, second quarter adjusted earnings per share at 68 cents, revenue at 30. That was a beat over the estimated 28.9 billion. Their data center revenue was a beat as well. They put third quarter revised revenue at 32.5 billion. I don't know. I thought overall it was a pretty good report. I guess they had some cautious guidance for the near future. That their shares did fall about 7.5% after those earnings came out. But then, interestingly enough, here this morning we saw several financial institutions actually raise their price targets. So Morgan Stanley up at 150, Wells Fargo at 165, Goldman at 135. In general, most institutions still have bullish price targets for Nvidia. This might just be a blip on the radar. We got a few other data points out. So the jobless numbers came in slightly under. We saw Q2 GDP come in at 3%, 2.8% estimate. In some other news, we did see Pavel. We talked about this. This was breaking news on yesterday's show. Pavel did get released. So that poly market bet resolved to 100% yes. Ton did go down again yesterday for the second time in 2 days. Ton was down. Market didn't care. Ton coin up 4% on the day, briefly spiking over 580 there. It seems in the meme streets, just more chop. I think when the majors chop like this, you can pretty much expect the same from the meme leaders. We're up a couple points, up 2 to 3% for the majors. Most mid tiers, kind of the same boat. Some green on the board. No red, at least that I saw, but also no huge runners. There was a runner, this Phil token, apparently tied to some ETH loss, but I'm not really sure if that's true or not. So haven't had a chance to really dig into that one. But that's a quick roundup of the markets. Logan, just kind of curious here for your thoughts. We've heard Mando's thoughts. We talked about like Kaleo and other traders' thoughts. What is your market outlook here? Like kind of macro, Bitcoin, crypto majors. Are you aligned to the thesis that we chop till the election, chop through the summer? Kind of what's your base case here?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a silly default answer, Tyler, but I think just that level of uncertainty regarding Kamala Trump, and what could happen in either direction with a win for either party there just leads us to more chop. So, I'm kind of hunkered down in the chop.
Yeah, like resets back, right?
Sorry. Everybody still here?
Yeah, I got you. I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I feel like chop. I think it's a little silly that, something like Nvidia, you have the one stock, that might trigger the entire market up or down. That stuff's all silly to me. All the numbers that come in, from time to time that can send us up or down for a particular day or two. But until that time of the election, that is, I'm feeling like we're probably just going to be having this conversation about up a couple percent, down a couple percent.
Yeah, I think that's probably in line with my base case. I mean, Nvidia, it's understandable why it's such a big deal, right? Like if folks haven't been following it, its market cap is $3 trillion. So it's larger than the entire crypto industry, its market cap. So as a single stock, when it moves, it does shake the rest of markets. But, I feel like it was a situation where it had just been sun running and everything had to be perfect for it to pop green after earnings at a $3 trillion market cap. And it wasn't perfect, but it's still, doing just fine. It's up 9% on the month. Wouldn't be too concerned about Nvidia. I think a big, another macro headline that jumped out to me on the day was in the prediction market streets. So folks, we talk about poly market quite a bit on this show, but one of their shiny new competitors, Bet, tied to the drift protocol over on Solana, had a smashing day yesterday. $20 million in daily volume. That's nearly 10x their prior all-time high of 1.2 million on the day. It seems like the money was mostly spent in their primary election markets. But Logan, curious for your thoughts. Had you been following Bet at all? Any reactions to them flipping poly on the day?
Yeah, so I was excited for the launch, of course. Everybody looking for, another option in terms of prediction markets, given the heat surrounding them. Not many markets open, right? Only 4 I'm seeing total. Yesterday's outburst, nothing to explain that from my perspective. I haven't been able to dig too deep into the wallets or anything like that at this point in time. But I'm seeing like almost 21 million bet on the popular vote. I think, the experience on Solana, of course, when you're comparing Solana to Polygon, Solana to most other blockchains, right? Superior. We found that out with meme coins. So I think Bet has a real opportunity. Of course, it's going to have to open up more markets. Going to have to probably go through some trial and error with like resolutions and things like that, that Poly Market's already done and kind of gotten out of the way. But why not have a strong competitor alongside with a different experience? I think it makes a lot of sense. I've not participated, as I mentioned, but I'm keeping an eye on it and open to participating. Like I said, just because of the ease of using Solana. I did make a Polymarket bet this morning. Maybe we'll talk about that. But again, I had to send USDC via Polygon. It's not that big of a deal. It takes a couple seconds longer or whatever.
It's an annoying onboarding process. Let's just be honest about it. Like,
yeah,
but that is what kept a lot of out of Polymarket. Is like it's the 5 steps to get your money over there. Because once your money's there, like you're locked in. I feel like.
I mean, it took me 30 seconds. I bridged.
Come on, no, it did not. You did not set up a Polymarket account start to finish.
No. Sorry, I had an outstanding account. I funded the account in, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute, 2 minutes. I bridged USDC from base to Polygon and then sent it in and activated it. And then made the bet. I mean, 2 minutes. It's not that bad, especially if you're crypto native. If you're not, it's not good. Yeah, that's too many steps. And that's where, in terms of getting somebody from 0 to 100 off the ground, Polymarket, of course, huge advantage in terms of name brand, the collaborations it's done with Substack and Perplexity. Those are great, fantastic in terms of top of funnel brand awareness. Drift has a huge hill to climb. Yeah. Drift has far less to climb in terms of getting funds on site, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good point. What stands out to me is Polymarket has brought so much attention to prediction markets that it does make sense for big players to be monitoring the competitors because of things like ARPs. So like if there's an interesting ARB spot or a middle on some bets across these different marketplaces, that's going to be a juicy opportunity, which I think is an advantage to the next round of players who come in. Notably not Predict.fun, who got 900,000 Blast Gold to launch on Blast this month and has not. So that gold is going to be rolling over to next month.
I think Pac-Man just tweeted that he's excited for it. So it must be coming. I mean, he must be connected.
He is excited. I would be excited for it too. In an ecosystem that is in desperate need of more apps right now to bring in users. So let's take a look at the Polymarket board. A few that jumped out to me just quickly as a debrief on the news. So there's been the headlines of a large attack coming from Iran that's imminent. Polymarket has that at 5% shot. So I feel like we keep seeing these headlines on Twitter and they just never come to fruition. I think that's why the market isn't really reacting to those headlines anymore. We've got Trump still ahead in the election bet. Why I think that's interesting, folks. We called this bet out on the show just a few days ago. If RFK drops out, who will gain more in the polls? That was at 66% Kamala. Issues for us here this morning. Looks like we are back. Logie, just recapping here the RFK bet for our listeners. It looks like this one is going to resolve yes. So a fun call earlier this week on the show. But yeah, you mentioned that you made a bet, so I'm curious what jumped out to you.
Yeah, you shared the Trump town hall market. What words will be said?
Let's get into this.
Just a quick scroll through, and I'm not paying attention nearly as closely as you are as to what Trump's saying, what the agenda is for some of these items. But just a quick scroll through. Down near the bottom, you'll see the Durov, Pavel Durov. He can say either Pavel or Durov. This just screamed no to me. Like, I'm skeptical that this is going to sound hyperbolic. Oh, it is hyperbolic. I'm skeptical that Trump really knows who this gentleman is too much. Of course, huge ramifications around privacy, freedoms, all that type of stuff. So it's a big deal. But is Trump going to say Pavel Durov? Why? I bet no. Low liquidity, but I bet no. I'll take $13 on like an $80 bet or whatever.
You can throw $1,000 into this and make $100. It's probably a pretty safe $100. I would be pretty shocked if he says Pavel Durov. So the bet today, folks, what will Trump mentioned, say, during the Wisconsin town hall. I don't know if this town hall is a different setup from his prior rallies, because these odds are strikingly different from where they have been. Tampon down at 62% jumps out. Comrade Kamala at 3+ times. That's a very interesting one. You get paid 150%, and will he say that? That's a pretty frequent tagline for Trump. World War III, I'd probably pick the no side on if I had to bet that. Alien 5 times at 30 cents is very juicy. The last Trump speech that I listened to, he said illegal alien at least a dozen times. So that would be the context that word comes up. I like that quite a bit as an underdog. Drill, baby, drill. I don't know that I've ever heard him give a speech and not say that. So at a coin flip, 100% return on drill, baby, drill. I kind of like that. You mentioned the no on Durov. I don't usually bet a whole lot of the big favorites. I think that one is a lock. Border 10+ times at 67 cents, and then border 25 times at 18 cents is interesting. Will he say border 25 times? It likely depends on how long this town hall is. So I would need to take a look at that. But honestly, I'm tempted to take a flyer on border at 25 times. But this is an interesting one. The other one that's interesting, Thread Guy. We talked about this on yesterday's show. Let's see. Oh, it looks like not a whole lot of action has come in. Will Thread Guy interviewed Trump before October. The odds briefly spiked to 50 cents yesterday, but I think likely tied to low liquidity in the market. It's back 18 cents here. I threw a little bit on my old friend Thread Guy. I think he's going to land this one. I like the terms of the bet. But that's a good roundup of prediction markets. I want to get into the lead story from the day. We broke the news on yesterday's show, but we didn't really have a chance to dive into it. Folks, Opensea is under attack. It seems like Gary Gensler's days at the SEC might be numbered, but he is not going down without a fight, and now he's going after NFTs. So what happened yesterday? Opensea announced it has received a Wells notice from the SEC and is expecting a lawsuit over their belief that NFTs are securities, and that Opensea enabled the selling of said securities on their platform. This is not the first time we have seen NFTs come under fire, with the SEC seeing prior success coming after individual founders like Tom Bilyeu and his Impact Theory collection, along with Mila Kunis's Stoner Cats. But this is the first time the SEC has come after an NFT marketplace like Opensea with more broad sweeping charges. They have not provided any additional detail on which specific NFT products or types of NFTs might fall under scrutiny. Opensea is pledging $5 million to cover legal fees for any artists and or developers, which may also receive Wells notices to, and I'm quoting here, ensure creators can continue innovating without fear. I think that was a very nice step from Opensea, but I think that also might have spread some fear in the markets. We'll come back to that here in a second. So what are folks saying about this? Devin Finzer, CEO of Opensea, he commented in his long announcement post, cryptocurrencies have long been in the crosshairs of the SEC, but this is a move into uncharted territory by targeting NFTs. The SEC would stifle innovation on an even broader scale. Hundreds of thousands of online artists and creatives are at risk, and many do not have the resources to defend themselves. And then congressmen are weighing in on this as well. So pro-crypto Democrat Wiley Nick, he called the SEC's approach regulation by enforcement and a blatant abuse of power that erodes trust and transparency in our regulatory system. He went on further to say that actions like this could derail the progress driving digital innovation in the United States. So some strong words there from Wiley Nickel. And I think some interesting comments also from Jake Chervinsky. He said, the idea that a financial markets regulator established in the 1930s would have jurisdiction over digital art in the 2020s defies not only common sense, but also the SEC's statutory authority. I do think it's hard to argue with a lot of those statements here. But Logie, curious for your thoughts. We didn't really have a chance to dive into this yesterday. Yeah. What are some of your reactions now that we've had a day to digest this?
Yeah, I mean, disappointing, of course. It's tough to, as you mentioned, disagree with a lot of what's shared there, whether it be from the congressman or Jake Chervinsky. kind of takes the words out of my mouth, at least from someone who's actively participating in this market. I definitely see a little bit of the both sides of the positivity surrounding Opensea here, and taking you felt sort of like a community rallying yesterday around Opensea in a positive way, which hasn't happened in a really long time. But then, as you mentioned, a little bit of the fear and doubt creeping in when they're pledging $5 million. That feels like a lot to pledge, almost with expectation that more and more creators are going to, fall on the sword here. So I see both sides. It is a little scary. At the same time, I mean, why pick this fight? If you're the SEC, it just seems like, I don't know. Like, I've seen all the clips about the Pokemon cards back and forth, right? There's that testimony. It was Gensler, and I can't remember the representative's name, right? The back and forth about the tokenization of the Pokemon cards that got repushed on my timeline this morning as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, you're unifying and helping rally a group of individuals and companies that, I don't know. At this point in time, it's not like we've been, solidified, unified in certain ways, but there's still plenty of infighting between blockchains and things like that. And now you're asking for everybody to sort of get along, join the fight alongside Opensea. And I don't know why. I mean, I think that's a positive for our ecosystem to be able to hopefully fight together on this, gain the clarity that's necessary from a regulation perspective, and move forward. It's a negative, unfortunately, for any of those impacted at an individual level, whether it be a creator or developer, nonetheless.
So rate your concern levels for creators and developers. Do you think digital artists should be concerned they're going to have rules notice?
I don't think so. Small digital artists, even notable digital art people, right? Like, I don't think people should be worried about stuff like that. If you are an NFT project like Tom Bilyeu's Impact Theory, like Stoner Cats, yeah, if you made a big splashy wave in 2021, if you raised a ton of money via a mint, maybe if you haven't already received it, right? You heard Mando on the show yesterday say that, the rumors about many more being sent out, and we would eventually find out about them. If you haven't already received it, maybe you are a little worried, 4 or 5. Otherwise, I don't think you need to be overly concerned here. Let the big dogs fight this out. And, hopefully Opensea and the powers that be from the Web3 community find a peaceful and positive resolution for all us participants.
Yeah, I think there's just clearly so much nuance to this. I think digital art is totally safe. But like, if you remember, like, Stoner Cats did an NFT sale to raise money to fund a movie that the holders would have the chance to benefit from. So that was a little bit more of a clear-cut case. And then I forget some of the details for Tom Bilyeu's Impact Theory, but it was also a huge raise, $30 million raise from a pretty big name. Similar conditions. We've seen other NFT collections go as far as, promising dividends. So there are more blatant abuses than pure, okay, I'm an artist dropping digital art as NFTs. So I don't think that bucket should be too concerned here. I think the question from a market standpoint, could NFTs rally off of this? And I think punks have been leading the way for NFTs. It seems like this last month. Yesterday was quietly a big day. I didn't really see a whole lot of folks talking about this, but if you go through the last couple of days of punk sales, they're almost all above floor, like 30 to 50% above floor. So it's folks shopping for actual nice aesthetic punks. Multiple 39, 38 ETH sales across the board. So I'm curious for your thoughts at high level. I want to get into this a little bit more in depth, but do you think we might see an NFT rally off the bat?
Yeah, I do think that, again, pulling together these communities in this big fight, I do think you could find a rally on the back of this. Interestingly, the rally, I think, could, kind of diverge in 2 ways. One being, everything sort of rallies as the broader sentiment is positive. The other being assets like punks that don't have nearly as much concern, right? That kind of fall into that bucket.
Literal flight to safety.
Yeah, flight to safety. That's the other thing here. Like, Yuga, of course, would be one of the first if they haven't already, right? There's received something. We'd be one of the first communities that you would be like, okay, like there's a lot here. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of the word utility, those types of things. If I was somebody that's concerned based on yesterday's announcement, I would be probably moving away from those assets into something like punks or art. So I could see both ways, Tyler, but in both those scenarios though, there's a positive for NFTs. I definitely see, rally as an option, especially because I feel like we are building momentum anyway. Maybe that's foolish.
It's not foolish at all.
But, because volumes are still like not very great, those types of things. But I feel like we are building momentum. And this is just another one of those things where it's kind of like, not to liken it to anything too graphic, but it's like, you beat up the little guy a little bit, and now the little guy and all his friends want to kind of fight back.
Viva la revolution. So now
exactly.
NFTs are counter their cyberpunk here. I thought what was an interesting coincidence, not sure the right term here, but Rudia sold an Autoglyph 3 hours ago for 99.95 ETH. That's a notable sale because it is the lowest Autoglyph sale in ETH terms since July 2021. So he just marked a 3-year low. And here, an easy narrative to craft would be flight to safety, like assets like Autoglyphs, right? Which are like the furthest on the spectrum from a security. And here we had the lowest sale in 3 years. This actually sparked an interesting question for me here, Logie. I'm curious for your thoughts. So Autoglyphs, let's say the floor is, let's say you can get one for 90 ETH. The punk floor is 30 ETH. Which do you take? 3 punks or 1 Autoglyph?
Yeah, give me 3 punks. To me, it's not much debate. There's a lot of probably personal nuance in there. I like the punk's narrative better. I like the punk's ability to create and curate community better. I like the punk's ability to flex status better than Autoglyphs. And so that's why for me, it's pretty easy. If you're a pure art guy and you can't connect to any punks, yeah, I could see Autoglyph. I mean, owning an Autoglyph is not a bad idea. The flight to safety, though, ultimate safety, cold hard cash, right? So that's always in play as well. But I'd take 3 punks.
Interesting. It's not much below floor. It's not like he took a low WETH bid. The WETH bid is standing at 75. So the floor is at 107. I like the punk pitch is an easier pitch, I think, for a broader crowd to understand than the Autoglyph pitch. I think that's a longer debate. I don't really necessarily want to get into it, but we also saw some big news out of Sam Spratt on the NFT digital art front yesterday. So yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the Monument game. Happy anniversary to those who played and or still holding those NFTs. And then he did tease effectively the next chapter. He's saying the next chapter of Lucy is in sight. Started to share a little bit of details, but he also closed this out with, I look forward to sharing it with you soon as it's ready for you to enter. So it feels like it's coming, but probably not next week. That's how I'm interpreting this. So I'd probably put it as a Q4 launch as I'm reading the tea leaves here, maybe early to mid Q4. Logie, curious for your thoughts on this, and maybe like when's the last time you've been excited for an NFT mint, and then would this be like the biggest NFT mint of the year?
Well, thoughts. Congratulations to Sam and the community that he's curated over the last year. This was a huge spectacle, one of, if not the top events from last year that I can recall. So that's awesome. Last time I was excited for an NFT mint, I don't even know. I'm not sure I can come up with a concrete answer in the time that we have left in this show, Tyler. It's been a really long time. But if you were to be excited about something, I think the next chapter of Skulls of Lucy and the Monument game would be something to be excited about. I think a fantastic part here was, the council itself is very, at this point, like 70 ETH, maybe more to get in, right? To claim a skull. Is that right? I might be.
Yeah, let me check that.
So I mean, like that's out of reach for most all people. But the great thing about the last round was Sam brought in a lot of people with the lottery tickets and the ability to participate in the game itself with the observations. And I would anticipate, although I don't know, of course, that, this just continues to sort of the outer rings start to broaden every single time to potentially allow more people in. And I did not participate last time. But as you see that unfold and the success of it, maybe you want to get in this next time on something that I think is universally loved, right? Like this whole unfolding. I haven't seen anybody say anything bad about Skulls of Lucy or the Monument game. So my expectation is the next one would allow people to participate, other people to participate, lower bankrolls to participate, just like last time. And yeah, I do think that's one to be excited about.
Definitely, it's a longer term hold. You have to have a 5 to 10 year time horizon. It's an elite group. I think the Skulls holders probably one of the more notable groups of art collectors in the digital art space. I will say it does feel like they've lost a little bit of momentum from where they were a year ago, but I think that's just kind of natural with ebbs and flows. A group that has not lost momentum, and in fact, quite the opposite, is rapidly building momentum. That's DeGods. Enough so that Thread Guy commented this morning, unironically, I think DeGods is the only NFT I could explain to my college homies in less than 30 seconds and they'd fully understand. Bros being bros type shit. And then Logan Hitchcock on the show retweeted this and said DeGods' best path forward was always Barstool and Web3, and thinks that would be a resounding success. So Logan, are you eyeing DeGods here? Any thoughts on their momentum?
I am, and apologize for reiterating for any lucky lead listeners, but I've shared this sentiment on our show before, Tyler. This felt like a slam dunk opportunity for Frank in the community. Be Barstool, be the Frat guys, be that. They were doing that in so many different ways, but it felt like it wasn't necessarily being embraced, or at least there wasn't a commitment to embracing that, right? There was so many more bigger, ambitious plans, and you can't fault them for wanting to go bigger and be more ambitious, but it just distracted from what I felt like personally was a slam dunk. And despite that not being my audience, I'm not the Frat guy, Barstool guy. It's not me. I'm very plain in my gray t-shirt, right? But I recognize its path for success. And yes, I have been since the bridge back to Solana. I know we've been talking about this. I've been eyeballing them. Got a little lucky with timing and market forces, right? Bringing price down. I think 28 I saw this morning. I'm looking. I don't know. Do I just buy floor because I don't identify with any of them anyway? That's what I probably should do. Do I find something that, I like a little bit more aesthetically? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm looking, and I think in the last couple weeks, even the last couple days, there is clear momentum here. Even if price is not indicating it, there's very clear momentum here. And I think, DeGods is set up for success should they continue down this path.
And for a DeGods, you need to find one within 10% of floor, 10 to 15% of floor that you like a lot. I think this one I'm sharing on the screen for those in the stream kind of screams Logie to me.
Well, it's got the appropriate color palette. I just have to do a little bit more. I've been probably too price conscious when looking at these, because for me it is more of like a, I don't want to say it's like a proxy Sol bet, but in a way, this is kind of me parking some Solana and being okay with it. It's not like a swing trade type thing for me.
I feel like the MOG glasses is an obvious trait. It's the Gucci goggles, but they look like MOG glasses. Come on.
It's my gosh. I'm fully aware that I am not cool enough. Should DeGods land this, right? Land. And I think, like I said, they're on their way. I am not cool enough to be in the club, but I'm happy to join in on the financial success and upside. Should it come to fruition.
I've always loved the DeGods since I went to NFT NYC 2023, I think it was. And I went to a DeGods party and met some just good old boys from Florida who didn't really have any other NFTs and just loved their DeGods. And they seemed like they were genuinely good guys. We had a whole lot of fun with them, and they seemed like they were just going to hold them forever. And this may, I don't know if this is a surprise to frequent listeners or not, but I am 39 years old, but back in my 20s, I was a frat guy. I was in a frat in college. So this is a vibe that resounds with me. And guys, I can fit in with the DeGods frat. Don't worry, I can still do the shoeies. Folks, we got just a handful of minutes left to show a couple other headlines. So we got Sonium, the Sony L2. We got new details on their L2 launched yesterday. Their Monado testnet has gone live. It also came with their own incubator. So Spark Incubation, they're offering $100,000 grants. I think would probably be the appropriate word to teams that apply and win through that incubator. The testnet, again, public. It's accessible already via the testnet blockchain. Logan, just curious, any high-level thoughts on Sonoma? So we don't still have a whole lot of information. Do you think they're going to make it here?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, major brand, of course. Everybody gets excited about that. I'm excited about that. An organization, I should say, looking to participate here alongside us, brings validity to what we're doing, right? When others in a real world company want to participate, that's really awesome. But just interesting to see what happens. Like they're reaching out, looking for developers to start looking at the documentation. They're building with it's on the super chain, right? Is that right? Yeah, I believe so. So familiar tools and everything for developers to, work with if people want to build there. We're at a really interesting junction, not to segue us, Tyler, but like there's just a lot of these L2s and L3 like niche chains that are looking for activity and looking for developers, looking for users. And, as a user, it's fun because hopefully new cool stuff is built on one of these chains for us to participate with. As a developer, it's probably fun because there's lots of opportunity, grants, as you mentioned, via Sonium, whether it be Abstract's going to have an incubator or whatever. There's so much opportunity for creators, builders, and participants as well that it's exciting, but it's also like there's just so many unknowns, and there's a lot of opportunity costs, spending time and effort on one chain that may not make it. Who knows? So interesting time, but we're building foundations, which is kind of fun.
The L2 race is getting more competitive. It feels more entrants by the day here, and time is an opportunity cost as well as capital. So you have to think about that. Big news out of Abstract. This is the seg that you kind of started down this path already, Logan. Abstract introduced their global wall. I think this is the biggest announcement we've seen from them since they just announced what their overall vision would be. They're touting it. You can sign in with socials, fund the wallet in seconds. And the idea here is to further their vision of, solving fragmentation and creating an easier consumer crypto experience. I don't know if we got a whole lot. We got some technical details about how this is going to work here. I think it has two components, right? The privy wallet and a smart contract wallet. And this enables things like gasless transactions, as well as easy and rapid funding. It feels like a big first step. Logan, just kind of curious for any reactions you may have to this. What do we need to see from Abstract? So I think expectations for Abstract are high. I think just because Luca, Saigar, and folks are behind this one, I think we've put them on a tier above perhaps just like your average L2 competitor. But it has been a pretty open question mark, right? Like, what are they going to ship? Now we have our first glimpse. I'm curious, what's it going to take from your lens to put Abstract on the same tier as like a Blast or perhaps a Base even? Yeah.
That is a great first step. Easy onboarding, small things like sponsoring gas fees. I love that. Rabby, other wallets are starting to do that to allow people to make transactions when they might not have too much left or have anything to get started. Social sign-on. I mean, like those are slam dunk, easy, get people in the door and started things that I think are necessary. Getting it up a tier to Blast, to Base, it's going to require something to do on chain. We saw plushies, which I don't know too much about, but like Apparently, people are excited about upcoming game announced that it's going to launch on Abstract. So, like, that's one thing. I'm sure you'll see a prediction market on Abstract. We know there are going to be pudgy adjacent. Yeah, there's going to be pudgy adjacent things on Abstract. Like, well aware of that. What else? And maybe when I say what else, it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be a net new thing. It doesn't need to be a net new, like completely new invention of a consumer application. But what's there, and does it get people there to participate? Blast had all those incentives, and people were there for a time, and now those incentives have been stripped back or did not meet expectations, and there are fewer people there, right? Abstract's going to have the same trouble. Trouble's maybe not the right word to use. I mean, same opportunity, I should say, to capitalize on that momentum and then hopefully sustain it. But it's very difficult to do. People will hop from chain to chain in search of
mercenaries. They are mercenaries.
Exactly.
The only thing I would like correct you or interject here on your commentary on Blast is, yes, people came for the incentives and then moved on, except for the apps that people actually like Fancy Top, which has now kind of proven that they have a pretty consistent user base for several months, dating back to pre-token launch. So it can work, but you have to have good apps. I think that for me, that's still been the big question for Abstract. So what apps are they going to have? And to get there, to get the apps, you do need the infrastructure. So we're getting the infrastructure built out. We will see. Very confident in Luca team that they are going to have some killer dApps launch on this L2. Maybe last on the killer dApp comment, Hamster. Let me try to find this. Hamster Combat. Logie, I know you've been intrigued with Hamster Combat. This is the Ton Telegram game. They touted some absurd number of users, like 1 million active. I might even be off on that. But some crazy number.
Was it like 30 million or something stupid?
It might be 30 million. And they announced yesterday that their token launch airdrop date, September 26th. The question is, will the Ton blockchain still be producing blocks by September 26th? At least consistently, it hasn't the last 2 days, but perhaps with now released, it'll start working again. Any thoughts on the Hamster TGE here before we wrap things up?
Not too many thoughts. Congratulations to anybody who may be receiving it. I'm interested to see what happens. The congestion on Ton in the last few days, and I'm not actually participating on Ton, by the way, full disclosure. But this dogs token, right, is keeping it from producing blocks, is a major token generation event, token trading event. Is that going to provide the same issues? It seems perhaps it may. So we'll see what happens. It could be a total shit show. Hopefully not for Hamster Combat token owners. But
here's what jumps out to me. I think this is Ton going down is just proving that the Telegram ecosystem is very different and disconnected from the crypto Twitter ecosystem. If indeed it does exist. And the reason I say that is there's no chatter about Ton being down on the crypto Twitter timeline at all. When Solana went down, it was the entire timeline talking about it. Anytime that happened, it was the main story on the timeline. And now you only even find out that Ton went down by reading tweets from the blockchain.
Is there a block explorer? I mean, there must be.
Yeah, I think there is. I'm not the tech whiz to answer all those questions. But I just find that interesting. So if people are complaining about Ton being down, they're not doing it on crypto Twitter. Perhaps they're doing it on Telegram, which would make sense.
Yeah.
But folks, I think that is a good roundup of today's show. That's going to be it for today. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of FOMO Hour. We will be back tomorrow. It is Friday. We've got a big show. We'll be recapping the week. Mando likely will be back. We'll have Rollbet spins, Rollbet Fridays. We love those. Tune in and perhaps win some prizes with that. Have a great Thursday. Go make it a beautiful day. Goodbye.